Good morning, beautiful people. How are we today? Hope you all are thriving, not just surviving. Whew. Hope everyone is doing well. Today is going to be a little bit of a shorter live stream, but I do want to make sure to get this in. And I'm going to remind everyone, we're about, what's today? Today's like the 15th or so. We are 2 weeks into a government shutdown. And so it bears reminding people on why the government is shut down. Now, I will share my view, my opinion, my analysis here, but I'm also just going to share the objective facts at hand. The reason that the government is shut down is because Republicans and Democrats cannot come to an agreement on passing something called an appropriations bill. An appropriations bill simply just means it's a bill to fund the government. So it went through the House. There was one version that went through the House. Then there's a version that goes through the Senate and everything like that. In order to pass an appropriations bill, you need 60 votes. Well, right now we have 53 Republican senators, 45 Democrat senators, and 2 independents that often caucus with the Democrats. Meaning that if you're going to pass an appropriations bill, you need to get some votes from the other side. So this has led to a stalemate, particularly over policy regarding healthcare subsidies, healthcare discounts, coupons, that kind of thing, specifically for lower income people on the Affordable Care Act. Well, Republicans want to eliminate subsidies, discounts or coupons in a sense, for low-income people on the Affordable Care Act. And Democrats are saying, no, we're not going to cut people's health care and make their premiums skyrocket. That is what the whole thing is really about. A lot of Republicans are also claiming that undocumented people are somehow receiving money from the government for their health care in regards to the Affordable Care Act or through Medicaid, which undocumented immigrants do not qualify to receive that kind of funding because they are undocumented. You cannot qualify for government programs if you are undocumented. The only small narrow provision that undocumented immigrants receive for healthcare is EMTALA. EMTALA is a program that was signed by Ronald Reagan, a very conservative Republican, that basically said that if you go to the hospital, you will at least get access to be treated. And there will be some compensation because it's just the morally right thing to do. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I agree with Ronald Reagan. That all being said, let me just break down everything here. I appreciate every single one of you. Please make sure to send some likes. I won't be looking at the chat, so if you're someone that's spamming, trying to get my attention in the future or currently, then just chill, relax, shut the fuck up. Cool? Got it. Awesome. So let's break down why the government is shut down at the moment. The government, again, is shut down basically because the government, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, cannot come to an agreement on something called an appropriations bill. An appropriations bill simply is a bill to fund the government. You are appropriating, you are apportioning money for certain things. The biggest discrepancy is over the unsexy topic of healthcare. Right now, Democrats are saying, hey, we want to extend subsidies for low-income people through the Affordable Care Act. So the ACA, or known as Obamacare. Basically, subsidies, a subsidy is basically, hold on just a second. For those people who need a reminder, a subsidy is assistance given by the government to individuals or businesses in the form of cash or grants. It's basically that assistance that you receive from the government, which that kind of money is funded by your taxpayer dollars. So let's say that the government decides to subsidize corn or decides to subsidize solar panels. It is our taxpayer dollars that go through and subsidize certain things, subsidizing oil. So right now there are healthcare subsidies for lower income people through the Affordable Care Act. Right now, Republicans are saying we don't want to extend those subsidies. We want to eliminate them. Democrats are saying, yeah, no, we want to extend those subsidies. So because they can't come to an agreement, and the time to pass the appropriations bill has expired, we are now in a government shutdown. That's what this is all about. Basically, you can't come to an agreement on the budget. That's what it is. Now, I have my own view, my own opinions, everything like that. I will share some of that, but the real reason the government is shut down is simply because they can't come to an agreement on funding healthcare. Are we going to cut healthcare for low-income people, or are we going to fund healthcare for low-income people? That's what this whole thing is really about. So, and it's difficult because in order to pass an appropriations bill, you have to get 60 votes in the Senate. Most bills that go through Congress, you have to have a majority, but for an appropriations bill, you have to have 60 votes. Well, that makes it difficult for these 53 Republicans to find 7 other votes, whether that is, 7 Democrats or 6 Democrats and independent, 5 Democrats and 2 independents, or if it just means if Democrats want to pass something, they have to get 13 votes. Maybe that includes the two independents with them, but it's, in that sense, it's kind of tough with that breakdown. Now, right now, there is actually a policy put in place where, and this is at the heart of the debate over healthcare right now. The core dispute is over the Affordable Care Act subsidies, the Enhanced Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, premium tax credits. That's what this whole government shutdown is really about. Republicans want to eliminate it. Democrats want to extend it. So right now, there is a policy set in place that if you are on Obamacare, that means that with a law that was passed in the COVID era, I believe it was through the Inflation Reduction Act, that for people on that, you are not going to pay more than 8.5% of your income in healthcare coverage. So, Enhanced Affordable Care Act premium tax credits enacted during COVID-19 expire December 31st of 2025. They have spurred record enrollment. 24 million people now have health coverage for 2025. They capped premiums at 8.5% of their income for many. Without extension, premiums could rise 75% on average in 2026, hitting middle-class families earning $65,000 to $100,000 the hardest. This also does heavily impact lower-income people as well on Medicaid, which is something that the Trump government also decided to cut Medicaid coverage for lower-income people. That was through the One Big Beautiful Bill. That all being said, let me just give you a for instance. So right now, let's say that you pay $800 a month for your health insurance. Well, there is a Affordable Care Act subsidy that goes through and takes away some of that bill. They compensate. The government is saying, hey, we're going to help you out by affording your health coverage because you don't make enough money, or we're going to kind of like help you along, all that stuff. So the amount that you owe after government assistance is lower. And that's because you don't make as much money. And again, let me point out that subsidies, so a subsidy from the government is funded by your taxpayer dollars. Sorry for my green screen. It's funded through your taxpayer dollars, meaning that when you pay taxes, that money is coming back to you in the form of a subsidy. So it's not necessarily free. It's just assistance. It's the way that governments work. Governments are a pot of money that we all pay into and then distribute on what we think is fair. Oftentimes, in my view, I feel that rich people, regardless of their political affiliation, like to kind of take more from the pot than other people, leaving working class people screwed, which is a problem. And that's where also corruption comes in, under the table deals, you get the gist. Now, let's just give another for instance. Let's say that you make $45,000 a year and you are enrolled in this COVID era subsidy. The total amount that you pay for your healthcare cannot be above 8.5% of your yearly income. This is a policy that Republicans are trying to eliminate. So if you are on the Affordable Care Act, government assistance for your healthcare, if you're a lower income or middle class, and you receive healthcare assistance, a little bit of help from the government, there is this policy set in place saying that you're not going to pay more than 8.5% of your income. If you're enjoying the stream, please make sure to send some likes. I love all of you. Now, Republicans are trying to eliminate this policy. That's not an opinion, that's a fact. Republicans are just trying to eliminate this COVID-era subsidy, saying that let's say you're between 40,000 and 80,000. I would have to double check the specific numbers. But if you're at a certain income level and you pay only at max 8.5%, Republicans are trying to eliminate that subsidy. So let's go with for instance here, $45,000 a year. Well, $45,000 divided by 8.5% means that you're not going to pay more than $5,294 as a yearly total. You divide that by 12 months, the max that you pay for your health coverage is $441 a month. Cool? So that means that you're not going to pay more than that. Well, Republicans are trying to eliminate that policy. If they eliminate that policy, then that means that your bill could go up. So let's say that the subsidy goes away. Well, they could start charging $882 or even $1,000 a month. You know, if they do a 50% increase, then it could be $660 or maybe $727 at $65. You get my gist. So Republicans, part of the reason the government is shut down is simply because Republicans and Democrats can't come to an agreement on whether to continue or eliminate these subsidies for lower class and middle class people that receive healthcare assistance through the government. That's not an opinion, that's just a fact. Thus, I'm not trying to push you in any sort of direction on all of this. I'm just simply stating that the reason the government is shut down is because Republicans, Democrats, Independents can't come to an agreement on whether to continue funding these tax credits for lower class and middle class people on healthcare. That's literally what this whole thing comes down to. Now, there's also this idea that somehow undocumented immigrants are receiving healthcare assistance through the government or getting Medicaid or they're on the Affordable Care Act. Let me just state unequivocally, undocumented immigrants, because of their status, cannot qualify for government assistance because they are not citizens. They are undocumented. The only small, narrow provision that undocumented immigrants receive in healthcare coverage is something called emergency Medicaid. Emergency Medicaid is also known as EMTALA. Let me just scroll to the section that I have on EMTALA. EMTALA is a policy that was signed by none other than Ronald Reagan in order to cover for health coverage for low-income people. Hold on a second. Where did it go? So it's called the Emergency Medical Treatment and Active Labor Act, EMTALA. This is a program that was set in place for emergency Medicaid, meaning that regardless of your citizenship status, you can go to the hospital if you have acute life-threatening conditions, labor and delivery, or sudden illnesses. Now, emergency Medicaid only totals to $3.8 billion, representing about 0.4% of overall Medicaid expenditures. And putting all of that into perspective, undocumented people can't qualify for Medicaid because of their status being undocumented. So in my home state of North Carolina, hold on a second, let me pull it up here. I have so many graphics that I always prepare for my live streams that sometimes I kind of get a little lost. Hold on just a second. So in my home state of North Carolina, in order to qualify to receive Medicaid or the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare, you have to be a citizen. You have to be a citizen in order to qualify. So this idea that undocumented people are siphoning money off the government for healthcare assistance is silly. The only small provision is EMTALA, which if you're one of these people that's like, yeah, well, why did they get that assistance? This is when I would say, okay, what would Jesus do? Literally, what would Jesus do? You think Jesus would react like this? Jesus, can you heal my young one? You see, I'd love to heal her, but I'm unsure of her citizenship status. Like they said in the Bible, they obviously say that you shouldn't trust foreigners. Do not mistreat foreigners living in your country, but treat them as if they are your own citizens. Love foreigners as you love yourselves, because you were once foreigners in Egypt. I mean, the Bible also goes on to have a lot of specific verses talking about, not oppressing sojourners, which are seen as like undocumented. You can kind of use that term interchangeably. You shall not oppress a sojourner. You know the heart of a sojourner, for you were sojourners in the land of Egypt. You shall also love the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. You get my gist. So all of that being said, I'm tying it all into a nice little bow here, okay? The reason the government is shut down is simply because Republicans and Democrats cannot come to an agreement on whether to fund healthcare subsidies for low-income and middle-class people through the Affordable Care Act, which, if those subsidies are not extended, could lead to their premiums, their monthly healthcare coverage bill, skyrocketing by 75%. That's what this whole shutdown is about. Now, for me, I would love to see a universal healthcare system where we pay into that system depending on our income, eligibility, all of that stuff. I think that it would actually save our government money and increase health coverage, because these greedy health insurance companies would not be siphoning off money to continue their operations. Basically being a useless middleman. That all being said, I am not someone that, if you want my personal take, extend the damn subsidies for lower income and middle class people. Extend the subsidies. Republicans, when you really break that down, you really want to break this down, Republicans are holding the government hostage in order to have a chance at eliminating healthcare subsidies for low income and middle class people. That's what this is really coming down to. That's what this whole thing is really about. Democratic senators are saying, yeah, we don't want to vote for your Republican-led bill to then cut healthcare access for low-income, middle-class people. We're not going to eliminate these subsidies for low-income, middle-class people. Republican senators are like, yeah, let's open the government. By opening the government, if you mean making people's premiums skyrocket, Democratic senators are like, yeah, we're not going to do it. And right now, it's kind of in this thing where it's like, who's going to blink first? Who's going to blink first? So, meanwhile, the fact that we have this shutdown is also leading to a lot of negative consequences. We have people that are going to work but not getting paid, and that's in itself a danger. Though, putting all of this in perspective, Republicans have decided to let a shutdown happen because they want to take a chance at eliminating subsidies for low-income people. That's what this whole thing is really about. They want a chance to eliminate this 8.5% cap for your health insurance coverage. Also, I just want to point out here, and this is something I wanted to just really specifically bring up. So, I asked, how many Republicans are on the Affordable Care Act? So, as a quick little synopsis here, extending Medicaid, which happened in 2020 under the Inflation Reduction Act during the COVID era, extending Medicaid was really, really helpful to help low income and middle class people, more people to qualify for government assistance for healthcare. That's what part of the Inflation Reduction Act did, is it helped expand Medicaid. Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act are not the same, but they work often in tandem together. They're both different options for the government to provide healthcare assistance, healthcare subsidies, coupons, discounts for lower income people. And again, that money comes through your taxes, you pay into the government your taxes, and then you receive benefits. This completely is disassociated from undocumented people. which they pay taxes, but because of their citizenship status, cannot access certain programs. Undocumented people, and I did this whole breakdown yesterday, definitely go check it out. If you click the live tab on YouTube, you can see all of that. I did a big breakdown yesterday. Undocumented people, because of their status, cannot access certain programs. They can't access Medicaid, they can't access unemployment, they can't access Medicare, they cannot access Social Security, yet they also pay into the system. They pay taxes like everyone here, whether it is filing them or through your payroll taxes or your sales tax, whatever. I pointed to the supermarket in front of me. That all being said, undocumented immigrants pay into a system that they don't receive any benefits from. So they're completely outside this realm of how the government functions. So I asked myself, okay, how many Republicans are on the Affordable Care Act? And as of October of 2025, this month, 10.8 million Americans who identify as Republicans or Republican-leaning are enrolled in health insurance plans through the Affordable Care Act. Now, I want to say that this data does have some limitations because it's hard to, when you enroll, be like, oh, by the way, what's your political affiliation? So it is kind of limited in that sense, but they use some geographic data and voting trends to kind of identify this. So what this number covers, based on June 2025 Kaiser Family Foundation survey of adults enrolled in ACA, Affordable Care Act marketplace plans, the 45% figure includes those who self-identify as Republicans or lean Republican, outpacing Democrats and leaners at 35%. The remaining 20% are independents or other. So when you break it all down here, why is there so many Republicans that are on the Affordable Care Act? Well, enrollment has surged in different red states, Texas, Florida, that haven't done Medicaid expansion. Now, again, Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act are two different things, but they both have the same kind of goal, extending healthcare coverage for lower income and middle class people. So for states that haven't expanded Medicaid, like Texas, Florida, Georgia, where low and middle class income workers, often self-employed or in a small business, they rely on subsidized marketplace plans through the Affordable Care Act, or known as Obamacare. So these states account for 75% of recent growth, which that recent growth coming from 2020, the COVID era, which extended healthcare coverage through the Affordable Care Act. All of this being said, here are the demographic trends. About 92% of enrollees receive subsidies, making plans affordable, $10 a month or less. If enhanced subsidies expire at year's end, which is what Republicans want, then premiums could double or more, hitting Republican enrollees the hardest. So what this really amounts to is Democrats are saying, no, we don't want to raise premiums for people. But this is also, if Republicans get their way, it's going to hurt their voters the most. So hitting Republican enrollees the hardest. 70% say they couldn't afford it without major financial strain. And let me also just show you a visual here, since I know some people are visual learners. At least 10% of the population in congressional districts in Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, and South Carolina are enrolled in the Affordable Care Act marketplaces, meaning that these people otherwise would not have health care coverage if it wasn't for the Affordable Care Act. So again, Florida, Texas, Georgia, Mississippi, South Carolina, Utah, these are mostly red states. Georgia is a little bit more of a swing state. Florida kind of, not really. Texas, sort of. But then you can see their honorable mentions here. There's Nebraska. There's also Tennessee. There's also Alabama and North Carolina, my home state. So it's important to point out that if Republicans get their way and they basically get rid of these subsidies to help low income and middle class people afford healthcare through the Affordable Care Act, they're hurting some of their voters the most. I'm not on the Affordable Care Act, as a personal note, but you're like, well, why do you care, Scott? Because I don't want to see other people suffer. Oh, geez. I guess that makes me a decent person. Oh no. I care about people having a government that works for everyone. The government is a pot of money that we all pay into. When I see corruption on how that money is distributed, or there are people that are trying to distribute it in an unfair way, I'm gonna fucking say something. So right now, this whole government shutdown is really about Republicans saying we want to eliminate healthcare subsidies for low income and middle class people on the Affordable Care Act. It doesn't matter that it disproportionately affects their voters. That all being said, I don't think that's a good idea. It's going to raise people's premiums, it's going to raise their monthly payment, and you're not going to have government assistance, which is already money allocated from our taxpayer dollars. That all being said, I hope this summary kind of helps you understand what's happening. If you come to a different conclusion on action steps moving forward, cool. I'm not here to tell you what to think. I will share my opinion as I did. That all being said, that's what this whole thing is about. So, I appreciate every single one of you. I do have to get going. I love all of you so, so much. Shout out to my amazing moderators. I cannot do any of this without you all. But I appreciate every single one of you, even if you don't like me. Smash that subscribe button if you really appreciate this breakdown. These videos are always posted afterwards. So anyway, I love all of you so, so much. Shout out to my amazing moderators, Akicha, Kate, Elisa, Ellie, Joetta Tech, Cantisa. I love all of you so, so much. Jenny, y'all are incredible. Especially Kate and Akicha in here. Y'all are awesome. Yes, I am gay. You're really, really weird for constantly trying to point that out. Just saying. Anyway, I love all of you so, so much. Just remember that you are beautiful, you are loved, you are valid, you are strong, and you are fierce. Don't let anyone or anything ever, 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 ever dim your shine. I love all of you so, so much. Bye!